The Alnemnian family was the most powerful martial house on the continent, having offered their swords as guardians of the royal family, and its head was Roderick Alnemnian, the only possessor of the 7 wings in this country. By pure chance, when the protagonist was dying, abandoned in the snow, this guy rescued him. He did everything he could to repay that debt, but well, looks like the talent factor was completely non-existent. One of the kids with no eyes drawn tells him not to be so confident. That willpower of his is useless without a mark. He didn't have the wings needed to prove his worth to his father. Wings that were literally wing tattoos on the back that represented how much magical power someone had, and he was the only one in the family who didn't have any wings at all. His nickname was basically the Wingless One. Even so, he kept training hard every day, sweating with his face to the ground. The kid worked himself to the bone, believing dedication would eventually reward him. He went through the whole Rock Lee arc and got nothing. Damn! He's there hiding among the trees watching the army approaching. That was when he got hit by the ambush. Back with his father, he says he doesn't understand. He followed him and trusted him up to now. So this is the answer he's going to give. The blonde asks what a tool expected to be different. His job is finished, so it's time for him to go. The protagonist charges, but man, we need him to reincarnate so he can have talent. So the outcome is pretty obvious. He swings the huge sword straight at his father's neck and lands it clean. Geez, now that's humiliation. The father doesn't even bother dodging the attack from that filthy thing. And right after, the kid gets bound by chains, and my god, how brutal, his legs and arms get cut off. Yeah, he screams in pain, falls to the ground, stains everything red. Poor guy. And it's his brothers too, telling him not to get full of himself. In the end, he did what he was supposed to do, but someone without wings is useless. They're staring, saying that this sight, watching him crawl on the ground, fits him perfectly. The protagonist asks, like, but if you were going to kill me, why did you save me? You could have left me there in the snow. The father walks up and says that from the beginning he already served his purpose. What the father wanted was the power of the 7 wings that was sleeping inside that body. The protagonist doesn't understand, and the guy says his mother was useful. Man, so is he even his real father? Now I'm confused. The father says that bitch was only good for giving birth to the seed he needed. After that, she left and abandoned the boy to turn into a popsicle, though not before they gave him one last stab. While our boy demands that Roderick answer him, it's already over. It's just his little hand in the snow saying it's cold, and asking if this is where he dies. In the end, he did everything necessary to survive, but it wasn't enough. He finds himself in a pure void of white light, slightly warm, and wonders if this is the world after death. Chubby little head looks like it's time for the baby to arrive, man. He coughs and realizes he isn't in the void. This is reality, but where is he? He wiggles his toe and sees his foot is tiny now, and his hand too. All of it makes him seem like a baby. He then realizes that he really is a baby, and when he looks to the side, there's the rat eater who gave him life. At that, he seems to use some kind of search ability already, and he hears some guys on horseback nearby shouting, "We gotta find that bitch, she couldn't have gone far in this fog." Lord Roderick said, "We have to get that kid back." That's when the protagonist finds out nothing was a coincidence. But hold on, what's going on? He said Roderick wants a baby. They're looking for him. That's when it clicks for him. He was also found as a baby on a snowy night. Did he by any chance return to the past? No way, this would be something totally unique in the manhwa genre. The search ability is still active. He's trying to break free from the woman's arms, sure that if he doesn't get out of there, he'll fall into that guy's hands. The kid is using all the mana he has, who knows where it's coming from. His little body feels like it's burning in flames. He manages to crawl through the snow, but he's leaving a trail too, which will be easy to track later. Obviously, it's hard to breathe, and he feels like all his limbs are burning. He's already in another life, but the only thing he can do is keep crawling. Still, he swears he'll do something to put an end to that damn Roderick. And that's when he passes out. Whew, looks like this sack of shit managed to make it far enough for someone else to come close. A girl looks back, calls for the priest, and tells him to take a look at this little sack of crap here. Some Viscone. Hyfried is the name, and he looks confused. He picks up the 3 kilos of poop and wonders why there's a child in a place like this. That's when he notices the kid actually crawled a good distance. Damn. But then they get all hyped. The kid crawled like 5 soccer field blocks, man. He's the protagonist. That's what they say. He's like, damn, this little sack of shit is strong, dude. Next chapter, there's another child wondering who he is and who this baby is, because it looks like she came to find him. Then he gets his nose pinched. Yikes, tons of kids. He went to an orphanage, I think. Maybe even a father who's out there, you know, spreading his seed around the world. All the kids are saying the little boy just woke up and they shouldn't bother him. Man, I'm scared. Looks like he already has 5 sisters. For now they're kids, right? But everyone's gonna grow up. The protagonist is in one girl's arms. He can already wriggle free and tries to bolt. The little girls come running. Wait, he's kind of trying to get out of there. Dude, the kid activated some aura, shot up into the sky. What happened? Ah, he lost control of his mana and got flung far away. He thinks he's gonna fall, but a guy saves him, saying this boy is strangely mysterious. And then the protagonist recognizes him. Hyfried is here, the older brother of Roderick, the guy who in his past life finished him off. That's a problem, because maybe he's in the Aeolian household. He knows this guy used to be considered powerful with his 2 wings and stayed at Roderick's side, someone who was also among the people who protected the royal family. However, he ended up dying in a civil war, causing his house to collapse. Wait, so they really are all daughters? Yeah, hold on, so that orphanage is actually his house, full of daughters like that. Yeah, the guy's really producing unstoppable a machine. The protagonist has his hand on his face, thinking how it's possible he ended up in the hands of that person's older brother. But now he's in the woman's arms, and she wants to know how it's possible for a child to have enough magic power to go flying like that. Then she gives him a sweet look and a little kiss on the forehead, saying he was scared, apparently. The little sack of crap is just staring, while Hyfried has a slight smirk, with his big hand, saying this boy has tremendous power. That tribal tattoo on his back makes it more than clear. The protagonist doesn't understand why is there all of that on his back. That's when he remembers his father saying something about him having lost the stars, or something like that. Now he gets it. This guy only rescued him to steal from him. The little kid is furious, while the mother looks at her husband and asks, so what do we do with this Funko Pop? The protagonist is uneasy. He didn't want his power to fall into the hands of those bastards from that family again. He needed it to get revenge. But then that Hyfried guy says, right, that he's going to adopt him as a son. Well, that's easy, isn't it? You find out you've got an Elon Musk on your hands, man. You're going to become a billionaire with this kid who's got 7 wings on his back. I'd adopt him too. Everybody would adopt him. Let's adopt this little bag of crap here and take responsibility for him. But then the daughters throw him on the ground like he's an idiot, and he asks if they were even listening. Looks like the father's been trying to have a son, right? So it was fate too. Can't blame him. You can't say he didn't try. The guy has 5 daughters apparently, and now they're all there wanting to know who the big-headed one is this time. Come on, Mom, what's the Funko Pop's name? She says his name is going to be Aster. Ah, so in his past life his name was Ash, right? Changed his name, whatever. Who needs an identity? There you go. Man, that's how I like it. 10 years later, Hyfried hasn't aged a single second. He looks like he's exactly the same as in the last scene. We've got some black hair coming out of the carriage. It's our boy at 10 years old thinking he's Sun Wukong, putting out an aura. All gentlemanly, hands behind his back, get out of here you little big head. It's the former smallest Funko Pop of them all, thanking Aster. We're already talking about what's going to happen, just how I like it. Sword Dance Festival, the annual event of House Ilians, a social gathering for all the noble families, a place to strengthen relationships, but also a place to show off the swordsmanship of the next generation. This is where many were humiliated and intimidated. As they walk by, there are some guys talking. Look, those guys are from Hyfried's house. They came here to get embarrassed. Bunch of trash. I heard they adopted a Funko Pop. Must be that weird kid over there. Alphonse tells him not to mind it. In that place, weakness would be crushed no matter what. She says that, but he can see she's all shaky. And Hyfried says that's their house's position right now. He wanted them to know how they're treated. Looks like he's disappointed. The protagonist says no. This is the bare minimum for things to be fun. Hyfried laughs, saying it's good to hear that. The protagonist remembers right back in his past life, as the disgrace of that house. Obviously he was humiliated there every single year. It's a place of bitter memories. But now the kid has the tattoo on his back and the day of revenge has come. Up above in a little window, look who it is. Corns in 1 and 2. The bastards who cut off his arms and legs. And the little protagonist is eager to make a spectacular debut at the event. An honest exchange going on in the middle of the arena. In an era where knights reigned supreme, it was crucial to have strength and grace. Strength was shown through swordsmanship, and grace through recognition. Okay, I thought you guys were going to be dancing for a second. Though it is a dance festival, right? The guys there are on the attack. Both rush in. The protagonist says the secret to having both strength and that so-called grace is the energy on the blade. Then the guy swings and shatters the other guy's sword. Obviously we're talking about the little wings in his hand. Oh, he's got them in his hand. I thought it was only on his back. Alphine is there saying it's impressive as always. That's why the other sisters didn't even want to come. Meaning, yeah, they're only going to show up to suck up. The protagonist is kind of downcast, remembering the routine humiliation when he took part in sword duels and his sword would break because the other guy's swords were tougher. But in this life, everything changed. Alphine asks what's going on. He's nervous. She gets it, but he has to calm down. It's his first sword dance festival. But he's smiling, saying he feels nostalgic. At that moment, Hyfried says he has to step out for the adults' gathering, so he'll leave Alphine in his care. She tells her father to stop making things up. She's older than Aster. She's the one who will be looking after him. And Hyfried says, you little bastard, this place is full of kids your age, so go build your connections, do some networking. I picked you up in the snow because you're an Elon Musk kid, huh? But don't let anyone find out you've got 7 wings, or they'll want to kill you, boy. The protagonist says it's good that he gave them a heads up, but he's getting stared at from all sides. It's going to be hard to socialize in a hostile atmosphere like this. He walks off and immediately leaves behind the sister his father told him to look after 10 seconds ago. He says he's going to make friends. 2 pushovers are sitting there on the sofa, and the red-haired one asks who he is. The protagonist says it's a pleasure to meet brother Darius. He is called Aster Elian, the younger brother. He saw him from far away and came over to say hi. The red-haired guy gives a little laugh, so he's that adopted idiot, you know? Found in the snow, poor as hell. The guy is already going full Joker, saying it's crazy to put the family name on someone like him. The protagonist remembers very well who Darius and Grion are. the two legitimate sons of this house, and the two pushovers who killed him in his past life. To think he used to be afraid of those two. In the end, it's undeniable. They're just kids pretending to be adults. Then Alphine calls him and says that's enough. He already said hi, so it's time to leave. But now her enemy shows up, right? Someone calls out to Alphine. Ah no, I thought it was someone else, but it's the red-haired guy. And he says that apparently she isn't hiding behind her father today. So how about she starts entertaining them there? It's an order from the main house. Man, you kids' threats are way too mature, you know? I don't know, say you'll trip her, call her ugly, steal her gum, but let's tone it down. Alphine, though, isn't scared. She says there's no master and servant relationship between the houses, so she refuses. She pulls the protagonist and tells him to go. He was going to refuse, but seeing how she's trembling, he decides to leave. But then the redhead asks if he knows the story that their father couldn't protect the king even though he was a knight, and because of that his brother had to cut off his arm. Good thing he doesn't have filthy bloodline like theirs. That's when Alphine has had enough. She goes over there to hit the guy, and wow, he spits wine in her face, my god. She just stands there while he says her father must be disappointed to have a filthy daughter who won't even be able to pass on the titles. They're two idiots if they think this place is a dance hall. Nobody's there to make friends. The protagonist realizes it, damn. He really was wrong when he came to this place. He imagined that since he'd already been an adult, seeing these kids' faces wouldn't make him furious. But that wasn't the case. He grabs a bottle of wine from the guy next to him, tosses it up and says to Darius, catch. The guy catches it kind of off guard so it won't hit him in the face, and thunk. The protagonist slashes, splashing wine all over the idiot's head. I don't get it. The protagonist runs his hand along the blade and licks it for absolutely no reason. My guy, why did you do that? But he's farming aura. Since he tasted it, he knows it's grape juice and says it suits children like them. Thank goodness, right? You wouldn't want them drinking alcohol in the city, would you, my guy? Then we suddenly go back 3 years with the protagonist exploding with aura while his father tells him to calm down. Does he want to kill his sisters or what? Dude, calm down, protagonist. The girls are all there in shock. That was apparently when he activated the power of the 7 wings. King Hefrid was even afraid. He was losing hope that this boy would be able to control it. Right then, we're back at the dance, and a guy opens the door saying a disaster happened. The guy on the left asks what it is. They're in the middle of an important meeting. Then the man says a boy challenged the main house to a duel. He says the name William, and he and the guy there don't understand what happened. Now that I'm noticing, he really doesn't have an arm. He's there looking all imposing with that jacket over his shoulder. And then Alphine comes in screaming desperately. He asks what happened. The bearded guy, though, is excited, saying it's great to see a fight between brothers like this. It's not something you see every day. Depending on the result, the successor and the winner of the dance festival might end up being decided right there. Darius raises his hand, showing the 4 wings, saying the kid is an idiot for picking a fight with the main family. Everyone's like, oh my god, he has 4 wings, he's so badass. He tells the boy to step forward and show his potential, or is he scared of the humiliation he's about to take? The protagonist says the one who should be ashamed is Darius, acting big just because he has a mark on his hand instead of actually showing his power in the fight, and he warns him, if he wins, the boy will have to apologize to his sister. Darius says fine, but if the result is different, from now on Aster will be his dog. He charges, saying the boy will be treated like trash for the rest of his life, and attacks the protagonist, who manages to defend and gets pushed back. Still, Darius's sword gives a little tremble. Darius says that today he'll learn the difference in power between those chosen by the gods. Alphine calls out to the protagonist, while the bearded guy says it's undeniable that Darius's swordsmanship is still pretty bad, but no matter how trash it is, he has enough magical power to make up for it. If one wing represents a lit candle, then from 4 onward, you basically have a mana explosion going on. And Darius is like, where's that earlier spirit, buddy? Weren't you going to make me apologize? Or was that just talk? Damn, he's going to throw that double attack from above from behind. The chubby guy is sure the fight ends right there. Darius lands it clean, but the protagonist still manages to block. The guy is in shock. Now the kid gets serious, half-lidded eyes, and says Darius talks too much, knocking him back. In these last 10 years in this house learning how to use magic, he's been waiting for the perfect chance to get revenge. And now he's the one going in. Huge slash. Darius can't withstand the protagonist's heavy strike and boom, drops to one knee while our boy keeps the pressure on, the blade almost at his face. The redhead can't understand how he's getting pressured when he has 4 wings. The protagonist keeps that Tommy Shelby stare while everyone around is weirded out. Darius was being completely defeated. How could this ruined house have someone like him? Meanwhile, Hefrid is thinking this situation is terrible. The protagonist remembers this guy cut off his arm. Will he do it again? He keeps boosting his aura. People in the distance are yelling for him not to do it. The bearded guy is impressed and then boom, a piece of sword falls to the ground. The protagonist snapped Darius's sword in half and told him not to piss himself next time. Then he turns and says he's no longer Ash without wings. Alphine is watching him, all happy while he thinks at least he got to vent a bit of his hatred. But then out of nowhere, he feels that sudden faintness. Look, final boss time up above. When he looks, the beast is just staring. The damn Roderick. Everyone in the arena is saying it's unbelievable that a boy from that filthy family beat someone from the main house. But this might be the worst outcome, because now they won't stay quiet. The protagonist is freaking out as the head of the family approaches. He casts a shadow over the boy, stares him down while the protagonist stays serious. Darius, what humiliation, gets up all crooked. Father, it was this guy. Dad, help me. He hit me. And obviously what happens? Boom, his own father pins his hand with the sword. Everyone in the arena is startled as Roderick says he's a disgrace. What is he doing, dragging the family name through the mud? Someone who can't even take care of himself. Fried tries to step in. Roderick, stop this. But the man says that boy has no right to carry a sword. The slash comes. But then, my God, the protagonist steps in front. Are you an idiot? I hope you're stepping in because you want to kill. Don't come at me with that. They didn't know anything. Oh no, wait. The protagonist says this guy still hasn't apologized to his sister, so this punishment will have to wait until later. Damn. Roderick says the boy better remember he's an orphan. Does he think he belongs to this family? The protagonist says he is the Viscount's son. Yes. And when you judge a knight, what is the weight that decides his worth? He said that, and kind of implying it's about strength, right? And Roderick is just watching Fried up there out of the corner of his eye. Then he says it's fine. So a member of this family and the son of a Viscount has just injured the main house. The moment that happened, it stopped being a child's game. Okay, I'm gonna cut in here and interrupt what he's saying. Let's remember, the guy defended the attack and pissed himself. He didn't land a hit. So Roderick, I don't know if you know this, you who went and stabbed your own son, but he's warning him that he'd better remember his father lost an arm because of that disloyalty. How is he gonna pay for it? The protagonist, however, answers that, with all due respect, this wasn't a child's game, it was a formal duel. He was there answering the insults to his family with his sword. Wasn't he the one who just told Darius that anyone who can't protect their name with a sword is a disgrace? That's why he won't accept even a single finger being cut off. The guys up there are saying something's wrong with this 10-year-old kid, right? He looks like some reincarnated person who lived a whole life, suffered, and came back. Then Roderick gives one last hard stare, turns around and says he understands. So he'd better get ready. Man, the kid actually went to get ready for real, and a huge sword was already coming. But then damn, he got blasted by something. I don't know what it was, maybe a heavy punch. Piri is in shock. The father yells, but someone's coming from its Fried. Coming in and the guy blocks without even looking. The man did a double kick there, landed in front, ran to help the protagonist and asked if he was okay. But damn, he tanked it, kid. Tanked is a strong word, right? Like he wasn't completely wiped out, and he still has a heartbeat. Roderick takes a look, turns around and walks off, while Darius limps away all crooked. Then the kid has a full-on dizzy spell, almost passes out, but Fried grabs him. The boy is trying to farm some aura now, saying, Father, I protected our family's name and all of them. And Fried goes, boy, yes, you were brilliant. That's literally what they said. Meanwhile, Roderick is going up the stairs, and the bearded guy says, what a childish attitude, Roderick. You hit a child, and at the same time, you still let a child ruin your son's reputation. Not to mention, it's the first time I've ever seen this boy, and he challenged you and even beat the main family. He really is quite the appearance. The chubby guy says he was scared. He thought Roderick was going to cut everyone in half right there. But the head of the family says hard times are coming, and they need a strong storm to split the world into 2 or 3. Meaning, right, that the protagonist's little bit of strength isn't enough reason to kill the kid just because of this. But here we are, next chapter. Everyone's in shock, freaking out, and the kid is tossing everyone away. One guy says it's impressive that the young master Astor can fight like that. Some guys next to him say it's weird, how is this kid 10 years old? Another says, I heard he took down Roderick's son. Man made him piss himself in the arena. During training, the protagonist tells us that at the dance festival he managed to show his power and start building his name. That will silence some voices that want to humiliate Fried's family. But he can't forget that in the end his goal is to destroy this family. At the same time, obviously he's curious how strong he'll be able to get now that he's been reborn. Especially considering that he almost blew up from one of Roderick's attacks, so he doesn't stand a chance at all. In the end, the mark was just an indicator of how far you can go. Even if he has a lot of internal mana, it's not like he can actually make use of it. He takes down another guy in training, and man, the whole camp is buzzing. Someone says that every day he likes to draw attention. It's Alphine who says he really doesn't know how to control himself. She warns him that father is calling, and then he comments on her outfit saying it's rare for her to wear something like that. She says she doesn't like it because it isn't cute. She says balance is what matters most, and seeing her fight, she realized she couldn't stay like that all the time either. When he comes back, he'll have to accompany her for a while. He sends Absol to the movie theater and tells her to wait because first he has to go there and settle whatever's going on with his father. Then he gets there and Fried says, so what's up? Kid, here's the thing. It's been 10 years now that you've been in the family, and the moment has come. I expected you to grow a little more, but here it is, proof that you're going to be the next head of the family. Basically, he's naming him as the successor, the future Viscount, and it's good for him to understand how delicate this position is. As part of this family and as the lord of a territory, there were many things that had to be protected, and Fried can't leave the successor's seat empty forever. Our boy wants to know if his sisters are okay with this. He says they'll be back from the Knights Academy in 3 days, and that's when he'll make it official. Wow, the white-haired one is called Malfa, and the red-haired one is called Kudo. My god, what an ugly name. The protagonist says that if that's the case, he's sure this Kudo is going to be furious. She hates him just because he's a man? How does that make sense? And obviously because he has the 7 wings. He stands up saying he can't accept this. He can barely control his own mana, and he's an inexperienced guy who almost killed his own sister. He doesn't feel confident that it's possible to convince them. Fried gives a little smile and says he always doubted the Funko Pop kid was really a child. That's exactly why he knew this would be the answer. And here's the real gift that's going to please him. The little protagonist gets startled. Man, the guy handed him a crazy huge sword. It looks kind of small inside that box, doesn't it? Or am I tripping? Well, I don't know if you like knives, but hey, right? That's what matters. He says this thing has the power to control the 7 wings. It's the magic devouring sword. Out in the forest, the protagonist asks, "Hey dad, couldn't you have shown me the big sword back there? Why did we come all the way out here?" He answers that it's a precaution. Because last time he destroyed almost the whole house. Then he says, "This is the legendary sword, Gran. A blade passed down through generations, and it's like a tiny little sword. What? Are you making fun of people with small swords? What matters is skill, and besides, this one is big enough to do its job when it enters a body, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, it's all explained. They're joking, but it's because it really is a broken greatsword." And the father says, "Look, it seems broken, right? But if you put strength into it, it grows. It's a blade that changes in forms according to the user's magic." Damn, the guy fired a Kamehameha and tore the whole forest apart. This is kind of overpowered, isn't it? The bad part about this sword is that if your mana is kind of weak, it drains you, and you end up more worn out than you would with another one. That's why it's an infamous blade. Now come here, kid, grab it. The little protagonist grabs it like, hold on, am I really gonna put my mana into this thing? Energy immediately starts gathering around it, making that Kamehameha. He realizes that, strangely, the sword is now pulling his mana and he doesn't have to do anything. Then from far away, the knights see an energy cutting through the skies. One of them asks, "What the hell is that? Did a comet fall?" They don't really understand, but Alphine is sure. Looks like this was Aster's answer. The little protagonist says, "Dad, this sword is exceptional." To which he replies that what's exceptional is the boy's talent, and he warns that no one in this family has ever had 7 wings. If he masters this power, one day he'll surpass even Roderick. Obviously, that's exactly his goal. But his father warns that great power comes with great conflicts. The moment they find out the boy has 7 little wings, that's when everyone will hate him and covet him. Some will try to stab him in the back. And if he doesn't want to regret his own weakness when that day comes, he needs to grow stronger and faster. The little protagonist takes his hand and agrees. He doesn't want to live miserably like he did in his past life. He thanks his father and says yes, he will master the 7 wings and this sword. 3 days later, the mother welcomes them. Kudo and Malfa are back, and Kudo introduces herself, saying that this young servant has returned home. Now she wants to know where the adorable little sisters are. The others there, they don't even know their names yet, and they run over to give them a hug. Then they cling to that Malfa too, saying they get mad at Kudo because she messes up their hair. She's standing there with her arms crossed, saying she doesn't do that, until she looks to the side and sees Alphine. Then she runs over and hugs her, starts ruffling her hair, fussing with it, and giving her kisses. But then Malfa looks around and asks where Aster is. The mother doesn't seem very excited when she's about to say something, and meanwhile out in the forest there are explosions going off. Ever since the little protagonist figured out how to make the greatsword grow, the kid doesn't stop for a second. The whole forest is wrecked, and Kudo shows up saying he's pushing himself too hard, and she wants to know why he didn't go there to greet her. Was he busy? Or too cold? Or does he think he's so special now that he doesn't even care about her anymore? Speaking of that, she heard about what happened at the dance festival. The whole academy was saying the boy's name, and she's sure their father is proud. The protagonist says that while that was happening, she was out serving on countless missions and training. Looks like she was the only knight who received a platinum title. She answers that yes, obviously that was the bare minimum for her to be able to inherit their father's position. And that's what she's there to talk about. She found out he refused the offer to be the successor. Was he worried it would hurt her feelings? The kid wonders why someone told this bastard. But he says that wasn't his intention. He thinks she's more qualified. Kudo says he knows that's her dream, but he's still being cruel. The protagonist doesn't really get it, and she swings her sword and destroys a tree. Like she's trying to show off, right? But she basically just destroyed the whole forest. He wants to know why she attacked him, why she's acting like this. She says that now he's going to have to show Big Sis what he's been doing all this time. They're going to have a serious fight. He tells her to wait. He hasn't mastered the sword. She just says that on the battlefield, nobody's going to care about that. A knight has to always be ready to fight, so if he doesn't act, he's going to be destroyed right now. And she jumps in. Looks like she really is taking it seriously. The protagonist has to activate the greatsword, saying there's no way to stop her, he'll have to take this seriously. She's coming at him with some kind of spinning mana, and I don't know what's going to happen because the chapter ended. Boom. There are a bunch of explosions in the forest. Man, that poor little forest, right? Guys, let's go to an empty field or something. She's excited, saying that his fencing is as sharp as ever. Imagine him being able to defend himself against someone who's already been through the academy. But at the same time, she wants to know what kind of embarrassment he calls a sword. He doesn't even know the basics of how to handle his own mana, and she throws him far away. The kid is getting beaten up for real and says Sister Kudo is going hard. But she's always been like that, Since he was the only man and probably the one who would succeed to the throne in a way, she was always on his case. Anything she thought was dishonorable or wrong, she'd come after him to beat him up, kind of to teach him a lesson. In a way, she's his natural enemy. And here she comes with another huge barrage, forcing him to activate the great sword, saying this makes it more than obvious that he isn't worthy to inherit this house. From far away, Malfa is watching and says, "Dad, is it really okay to leave those two like this?" He says the worst case scenario is someone dying, but he's sure that won't happen because they're good rivals. They're careless, but they won't go that far. Malfa says she hopes he's right, but she wants to know why they were called back from the academy. She knows it's not because of the successor talk. He says no. Then he goes to a drawer and pulls out a letter saying they're being summoned by the main family. It looks like the core branch of the family wants to see his grandkids, so to speak. Worst case, they might end up losing Aster. The protagonist tells Kudo to stop being ridiculous. Why is she talking about succession now? He already refused, and she replies that that's exactly what she doesn't like, and lands another huge blow on top of him. The protagonist was feeling like she was some kind of troll swinging a club, but the kid has that swag. One little twist of the hand, he ends up knocking her attack to the side, and he comes in from behind saying he's had enough of just listening. She laughs and says he must be tired of running away. His counterattack was useless, because in the end it was him who got thrown far away, all bloody fleeing. And she says the worst kind of high-level fighters are the ones who can only use their sword. It's a bit better if at least you can make use of magic, but if you want to be at the top, you have to master both. Then she goes, "Look." The big sis says she's disappointed. In theory, the difference in marks and wings represents how strong someone can be. Normally for each wing, you're 3 times stronger than the previous stage, meaning she who only has 5 little wings is 2 stages below him. And even so, he's losing every strength contest. In the last second of the fight, he chose to stop using mana and switch to swordsmanship. He really has no confidence at all in the power he has. Or maybe he's afraid of what happened last year happening again. The protagonist is there thinking like, man, he just got completely chewed out, and what she said actually makes sense. Maybe he was afraid of the power of the 7 wings, something he'd never even considered. Could it be that subconsciously he's limiting himself somehow? Maybe the reason his sword is so unstable is because he was trying to suppress his magic. Kudo says he has everything she once dreamed of. And that's why if he's going to be arrogant and let that talent of his disappear without anyone noticing, then he doesn't deserve it. He goes at her again, but now the protagonist slashes through the air and stops her. She's impressed, saying that now he hit with full strength. The protagonist says that thanks to her he finally woke up, but when she looks ahead, he's charging in with his sword deactivated. Did he run out of mana? In that moment, even though she only has 5 wings and knows it's impossible for her to beat him, for the first time she sees a chance. At the same time, the protagonist is thinking that in this second, he's going to use all his energy and create an instant impact. I don't get it. All that mess happened, but she just defended and said that he actually thought of something smart. Then the protagonist says, "This second life I received, I have no intention of wasting anything. This power, his sword, his family, everything. Because those were all things I could never obtain." Yeah, he revealed he has another life. And she's like, "Second life? What do you mean?" The boy just said he's the reincarnated from nowhere guy and then rushed in. Might as well smack her in the middle of the head so she passes out and forgets. Look, he went in to swing his sword, but at the last second he canceled his blade, so her attack did nothing. With that, the sword just passed through, and he slipped underneath and hit her in the stomach, like he's going to kill his sister, right? But we're in the next chapter. Well, apparently it hurt. Just because I said it, right? She woke up confused in her room. The protagonist pulled the classic hit on the head to make you forget. She's confused while Malfa says she really was knocked out for a long time. She gets up right away wanting to know what happened in the fight. What happened to Aster? Malfa says he brought her here after the fight. He said she passed out in the middle of our fight. Nothing serious. Seems like it was just fatigue or something. Kudo knows, right, that she got beat up. That's what it was. Which is strange because in that last second she was sure he was about to cut her belly open. But obviously he turned the blade off. The only thing that reached her was a residue of his magic. She never suspected for a second that Aster would kill her. But in that moment she was genuinely afraid of dying. She thinks all that, but she's smiling. Then she grabs her sword and wants to know where Aster is. She's not accepting that result. No way. This time she'll go all out from start to finish. But Malfa warns that unfortunately, he left. She asks where to and her sister explains. It looks like he was summoned to the main family. He and his father took off a few hours ago. She's furious, saying she didn't know about that. Meanwhile, the little protagonist is in his carriage. He fried is warning the protagonist that the elders they're going to meet today are the ones who support the family from the shadows, the old heads, the other families, and prominent figures. Basically, a bunch of retirees who still have enormous influence, the sovereigns of the shadows. People who showed no interest in our boy when he was adopted. But after his performance, strangely, now they want to meet him. The protagonist says it's obvious it's because of the result of the dance festival. That's because this family values prestige more than money, life, or anything else. And those who stain that prestige, kid, get thrown to the wolves. King Hayfried asks the boy, "You crazy kid, where did you hear that story, Funko Pop?" He says he heard it around, nothing special. Anyway, he's prepared for a private execution or exile if he can't demonstrate his power. Hayfried asks if he's really okay, if he understands something like that could happen, how he can leave without even saying goodbye. He says it's fine, he was already planning to leave as soon as they arrived. If anything, it's even better, because Kudo won't be on his case. But thanks to her, he also managed to understand how he's supposed to use that sword properly, and he has the feeling he's finally started to understand how that wing's power works. His father doesn't need to worry, he's ready to survive on his own. Right then though, the carriage starts shaking. I thought it was going to be an enemy, but it's Kudo with her head in there, telling him to wait for her. She climbs in saying he's being way too cruel, leaving without saying bye to Big Sis. She found out he was summoned to the Hall of the Great Elders. Neither she nor Malfa were called even once. My god, her real name is Kudriavuka, even worse, and the father says she has to understand she can't be taken there. She sits down and says she understands that perfectly, but they have to remember that a summons like this requires caution. Malfa must have warned him there's a chance Aster never comes back. The protagonist says they're exaggerating, he's just gonna have a little chat. She however tells him to listen. She completely hates him. She hates him because he's a boy. She hates him because he has 7 wings, and she hates how he's being treated specially. And she hates even more the fact that he has the nerve to be stronger than his older sister, and how he likes acting like an adult. But even hating him in all those ways, he's still family, and even if he wants to act like he's above everyone, he's still the little younger brother. So he'd better come back alive so they can have a rematch. Huh, sounds like the kind of speech someone gives right before they die, huh? He'll come back, sis. Then he realizes, oh no, she was killed. There said goodbye, bye my girl, you're going to die. I'll admit I'd respect the author if he had the guts to just kill the girl. The gates open, they welcome Hayfried and say the elders are waiting for them inside. The guys are surrounding them from all sides. He says there's no need for that, he knows the way. The knights however say that isn't allowed. They received orders to escort them strictly. It's more than obvious they weren't called there to pamper the boy. But at the same time, the little protagonist feels nostalgic returning home. Walking down the corridors which suddenly became daytime, the father keeps talking. The boy remembers this isn't a place to lose his temper. No matter what they say to you, keep yourself under control. He says it depends on how the old geezers act. The father says he's screwed. If he thinks like that, he'll cause a disaster. The little protagonist is looking to the side though, seeing everyone training. The father is saying something about being careful, but he's distracted watching the fights. Then they hand over the sword and the guy tells him once again to stay silent and calm. The gate opens and someone announces that Lord Hayfried and his son have arrived. Someone in the back says he finally showed up after 10 years. My grandson Hayfried. He kneels, greeting head number 6, or now, the Great Elder. The little protagonist then stares at the guy who's behind everything in this place, the biggest shadow within the family, known as Zenith, and at his side, all the powerful people who carry influence are there. He recognizes a few faces from the dance festival, but where's Roderick? The guy says right away that the person he's looking for isn't in this room. He's the leader of the knights who serve the royal family directly. He doesn't have time to deal with trivial things. He calls it trivial, but there are like 40 people in that room. The protagonist is thinking that in his past life he was so filthy within this family that he never even saw that old man's face. Still, he's sure that if so many executives are there, something is going on. Then Hayfried tells him to explain what these trivialities are that brought them there. Zenith says they should already be able to guess. His dog caused a mess at the dance festival. The protagonist already figured it was that, and Hayfried says that if he's talking about the problem with Roderick, it's already been resolved. But Zenith says that was nothing more than a performance for the public. It doesn't change the fact that this family's name was stained. Just the fact that they brought an adopted kid into this family in the first place was already a mistake. Even worse, they let that smear everyone's name. They have no choice but to exile the boy. Not even Hayfried and his family will get out of this unscathed. The protagonist asks why. He's the one who did everything. His father had nothing to do with it. But Hayfried stays silent. Then he stops talking, and the old man in the back says that indeed he wasn't raised properly. A child getting involved in the adult's conversation. He doesn't understand the name this family carries, the disputes and betrayals along the road to the top. Even in this room, at this very moment, many of them, all they want, however, is peace. He needs a guarantee that none of them will harm this family. Then he tells Hayfried to remember when he failed, dragged the family name through the mud, and was punished when Roderick cut off his arm in this very room. Damn, this time they're back to that day, but now it's for him to cut the boy's throat. If he does it, this matter will be forgotten. But of course Hayfried refuses and says he'd rather lose his own life than cut down his own son. Zenith asks if he's sure, because if that's how it is, then today he dies. Damn, he's going to die, his wife, his daughters, everyone. The Viscount's entire house will be dismantled. Everyone in the room steps aside. They're surrounded by swords, until the protagonist asks what the Great Elder is so afraid of. It was pathetic to see a grown man like him acting that way while trembling. Afraid of being bitten by his own dog. He could exile him or do whatever he wanted. But if he wanted to lay a hand on his family, he's trying to form an aura, right? But look man, at this point you're the one who ends up dying. At the same time he throws his shirt up so everyone can see his tattoo, saying that if they kill his family, a 7-winged person will become their enemy. Yeah, they